Hi, I'm Dr. Sharon Edwards. I'm a pediatrician and an adolescent medicine specialist at the Mount Sinai Adolescent Health Center. I'm also the program director for the Adolescent Medicine Training Program. And I also serve as the vice chair for diversity initiatives within the Department of Pediatrics. And I'm delighted this morning to talk to you about how to talk about racism with your children and adolescents.
Hi, I'm Shilpa Taufique. I'm a psychologist in the Department of Psychiatry in the Mount Sinai Health System. I am the director of the Division of Psychology within the system, and I'm also director of CARES, an adolescent day program. In addition, I'm the co-chair for the department's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee.
I think one of the most important things is that you want to start early. Studies have shown that by even 6 months of age, infants are able to tell like differences in how people look and sometimes show a preference for people that look like their parents. I think the best teachers for your children and your adolescents is you. So figuring out and really checking yourself about what you know about race and racism. There's so much great material out there to read and explore. Look at your whole constellation of friends that you have. Does everyone look just like you, or are there people from other backgrounds and cultures? I think that's vital to even beginning that discussion.
I think it's also really important to let your child know that it's okay to notice different skin colors and to be able to talk about those differences and encourage them to ask questions about this as well. If they feel that we're not even able to speak about it, they're going to have a hard time understanding what to do when they're faced with differences that they can't understand. So the more we can encourage them to speak and ask openly and honestly, and then we answer them in a similar way, the better.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Shilpa said because I remember being online in the bank and another child saying, "Look at her, mommy. She's black," and referring to me. And the mom was really like embarrassed and visibly upset. And I actually told the mom, like, "Yes, I am black, and this is my color." And I think really celebrating my color is important. I think many times children are shushed when they ask questions about differences in skin tone and how people look. But when you think about it, why is it bad to acknowledge somebody as a black person? And I'm happy when people see me as a black doctor. That's actually a really good thing for me. And that's part of who I am. So I totally agree with what Shilpa said.
Yeah, and it's important to know that you don't have to be an expert on race in order to be able to talk to your child. You can be honest about what you know and don't know, and that's great modeling for them to see that I don't have to have all the answers right now. I can have curiosity and ask questions in order to understand the world better. You can also use it as an opportunity to find answers to things that you don't know and do some of that research and investigative work with your child.
So that, as a parent myself, that is very challenging. I think that you need to really be involved with your child and really have the discussions throughout their lives and really be open that they can come to you about questions. I think it's critical for parents of children of color to really be involved in their school and to be involved in their school in the sense of knowing what the curriculum looks like. Are they just teaching about Black history in February, or is this really embedded in the curriculum throughout the year? I think that's critical. You also have to look at the class and look at the other parents and the other children. And, sometimes, finding out, seeking out people that don't look like you within the classroom and forming friendships with them is also really important, but I really think having those conversations with your child early is critical. My own daughter, when she was in first grade, though she scored really well on a math exam and really did well in math, I remember meeting with the teacher at parent teacher conference and the teacher telling me that your daughter is really an average student in math. And I was kind of dumbfounded because I didn't understand how that could be when she really had a really strong grasp of math from early on. And I think sometimes, unfortunately, I think children of color get labeled as not being good at certain things, and I'm not even sure what standards that people use. So I questioned that, and I really advocated for my daughter, and she really did really well throughout school. But I think you have to take an active part in her education and understand also the messages that they get from their classmates, from their teachers who may not look like them. I think it's really critical to have that dialogue.
I think some of the things that we've mentioned already, starting early, encouraging your child to speak and ask questions, those things really build a strength from within and a sense of self and an identity that allows kids to feel much safer regardless of what they face outside. So I do think a lot of emphasis has to be placed on those pieces and the certain comfort level that you can have in your home to talk about and explore uncomfortable topics. That really will stay with them and they will bring that to challenging situations outside.
And I also think, particularly in my house, I always have, my family has Panamanian roots. So in my house, there's always artwork from Panama on the walls. And that's always been at whatever apartment I moved to, I always had those. And I think it's really important for your child to see really positive role models in your house in terms of artwork and the foods that you serve, even in the people that you expose them to, going to different museums about and exploring different cultures, I think is really critical for them to develop a sense of pride in who they are and really be proud of who they are. I think exposing them to role models of so many different backgrounds, particularly when they're young, is important. Even finding books, there's so many great books out, even for infants, that explore race and differences in people. Exposing them to that from a very early year on is really important to do.
So I think it's very important to let your child know that you yourself have biases. We all do. And it's not something to be ashamed of, it's something to be aware of and understand. If you can do that, we're less likely to pass on the unconscious biases that we use to identify others, and we can overcome the impact that those have.
And I actually think this is such a tumultuous time right now in the world and in this country with, the presidency and really people not being willing to stand up against white supremacists. And I think, you know, particularly with adolescents, they are watching social media, they're really tuned in and not shying away from having these difficult conversations. So whether or not you are a parent of a white child, particularly if you're a parent of a white child, really talking to them about why is the Black Lives Matter movement so important, and what are they asking for, and really talking to them frankly about that. So not shying away from that. And I guess as a mom of a Black daughter, I really have these regular conversations with her and let her know how critical the Black Lives Matter movement is. We actually went on a few marches throughout. From when this started this year. And I think that's also been a great experience for us. And we saw many white ally families at these marches as well. So, really exploring this and getting to understand the challenges that people of color have faced in this country and continue to face, I think is really, really vital.
I think you can also give your child an example of a bias that you have, racial or otherwise, and help them understand where it came from. And share with your child or your adolescent what you do to confront your own biases and how you can overcome them. And that will give them a real practical roadmap to how to grapple with conflicting ideas and attitudes that we have.
So once again, I think that starts from you. Like I think if you take an honest appraisal of all your closest friends and everyone looks like you and has the same exact background, I think that's a missed opportunity to get to know other cultures and other people. So I would say that it's really important, for everyone to expose themselves to different cultures, to different people, and not be afraid to talk to them. I think right now, it is really a interesting time in history that I think there is a plethora of material available for everyone to learn about racism. 10 years ago, I felt like I've never, I couldn't say the word racism when I spoke. And now it's really clear that people are understanding racism and want to talk about it. And there's so many great books that are on the New York Times bestseller list that that you can read if you want to learn more. There's also the American Academy of Pediatrics also has a great book list where they have books that are recommended for children of different ages to explore. So I also think there's just amazing material out there that you can be exposed to and learn from. I also think, making sure that you watch shows that don't just depict white people on TV, and not watching shows that have black people as stereotypes, really watching shows that have black people in complex roles, in dramatic roles, I think is also really important, to do. And then having discussions with your child and adolescent afterwards and finding out what they thought about that. What did they think about the roles? What did they think about the storyline? And really having those conversations with them.
A great first step is also having your child attend a school that has a good amount of diversity
Mhm.
represented there. That's not always possible based on where you live or what your circumstances are, or school choice is not always one that we can make ourselves. If that's the case, you have the option of after school activities, sports activities, clubs, other extracurricular events that you can sign your kids up for that would allow them to be exposed to a wider range of people who come with different experiences, and allow them to make friends with different kids, invite different kids over to your house, let your kid go to their house, of course, with keeping in line with getting to know their parents and everything else. But I think that is a great way to expose your child to more of the world than you may be able to just within your home.
So I guess it's pretty similar to a lot of things that Shilpa and I have been talking about today, which is, explore, we are so lucky that we live in New York. We have so many different cultures just built into the fabric of New York, even though many of the different cultures tend to stay in one area. But, in Mount Sinai, we are with walking distance of East Harlem. So you can just walk like 10 blocks north and have like great Spanish food and Mexican food and just really explore El Barrio and look at the murals on the walls and really get to see the neighborhood. I think walking tours are great. I mean, I know right now we're in the middle of the pandemic, but I think that these cultural attractions that make New York so unique are going to be here for us to explore together. I also think, getting books and reading them together, which talk about people from different backgrounds, is really, really critical. And I also think, once again, really checking yourself and really reaching out to other people as a parent that don't look like you and getting to know, maybe it's a parent of another child in your child's class that maybe you'll just invite out for coffee just to get to know them and have a conversation with them. I think all those are great first steps.
I think as you engage in a lot of the activities that Sharon's mentioning, it's important to be sure that your child understands that every racial and ethnic group includes people who believe different things and behave in different ways. But there are also ways for you to have an understanding and connect to those experiences. So
Mhm.
we want to caution against othering the other
Mhm.
and turning them into something very different. And at the same time, we do want to honor the fact that there are differences. So if we can help kids understand that while there are connections you can find too, there are differences, and we can value those differences, they will grow to have a better understanding and acceptance and integration of different races and ethnic groups.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that, previously, maybe a couple of decades ago, I'm really dating myself here, but I know that people were being taught that we're all equal and you almost want to be colorblind when you look at people, which is probably the reluctance why some people won't say, oh, she's a black doctor when they describe me. But I think that it's important that we recognize the differences, just like Shilpa is saying that, there's nothing wrong with the differences and really understand that and also embrace that. So I think that it's really critical that we start to do that because, you know, we don't need to be colorblind. We need to be anti-racist, and that's very different.
Well, think about what that communicates to a child. If they see something, they observe something, and they identify it, and we shut them down, that's sending a message that that's not okay to talk about, or that's not okay to notice. So that is exactly what we don't want to do. We
Exactly.
want them to feel comfortable in acknowledging and valuing and noticing everything that's around them. And so we want to be really careful about again, our implicit biases that may lead us to this kind of knee-jerk reaction of don't say that, don't do that, and instead encourage them to speak confidently and openly. Kids can be very honest, and we want to try to promote that for as long as we can.